Hello, in this video we look at Bhagavad Gita Chapter 2 verse 4. Katham bhishmamahang sankhye dronancha madhusudana ishubhi pratiyotsyami purjaha varisudana. And now I'll bring up the text. Here we are. Arjuna Uvacha Katham bhishmamahang sankhye dronancha madhusudana ishubhi pratiyotsyami pujarha varisudana. So katham, how, and the main verb is pratiyotsyami, means I will fight against. So it means how can I fight against? Bhishmam and Bhishma and Drona. These are two of the leading figures on the opposing side. Bhishma, from the root bhi, meaning to fear, and bhaya, abhaya, the fearless. Bhishma is fear, fearsome, causing fear. Somebody who terrifies his enemies. So how can I fight against the terrible and the drona, and literally the bucket, because Hindu legend has it that he was conceived in a bucket. So how can I fight against the terrible and the bucket? Literally, how can I sankhye in battle? Sankhya is, here we are, the word sankhya, we often see it, or most commonly see it, in the feminine form sankhya, which means counting or enumeration. In its neuter form, sankhya, sorry, my iPad's gone funny. Sankhya means a reckoning, but specifically a battle. We talk about a day of reckoning, where the opposing forces measure up against each other. So here it's used in that sense. How can I, pratiyotsyami, fight against Bhishma and Drona? Madhusudana is the vocative. He's talking to Madhusudana, one of the many names of Krishna. So how can I fight against these two in battle? Sankhye. Ishubhi, with arrows. That's the instrumental plural. How can I loose my arrows? How can I fight against them with arrows in battle, O Madhusudana? Now, pratiyotsyami, have the root yud, meaning to fight. Many futures, most futures, are made by adding the ishyami, for example, ishyati, oops, ishyati, third person plural. Bhavishyati, it will be gamishyati, he, she, it will go. Sometimes the sya is added directly to the root, and that's what's happened here. So I'll explain what happens. So we have yud plus first person singular, siami. Not ishyami, but siami. Now, two things happen here. Firstly, to make the future here, we apply guna to the vowel, so yud becomes yud. And the second thing that happens, we've got a dh coming before the s. So by internal sandhi, that dh becomes a t. And that is how we get yotsiami. And earlier we saw, but this yotsiami, it can be both parasmaipada and atmanepada. There are quite a few verbs. You've effectively you have the option one or the other. So I will not fight. Earlier we saw nayotsie. I will not fight. And here yotsiami. Yotsie is just the atmanepada form of the future. So you say yotsiami or yotsie. Back in Vedic times, though the distinction has partially, well, they've mostly been lost by the time of classical Sanskrit. In Vedic times, where you have a verb that could be both parasmaipada and atmapada, purely transitive or active, and atmanepada, directed towards oneself, middle, they were, the distinction was the parasmaipada form was doing something either for somebody else or to somebody else, the emphasis being on the object of the verb or the beneficiary, the other beneficiary of what you were doing. Whereas by contrast with otherwise the same verb, the atmanepada form would more mean doing something for oneself. That distinction, as I say, was broadly speaking quite carefully observed in Vedic, but it got somewhat blurred. So you could say it was nayotsye would mean I would not fight in a sense for my own benefit, but here napratiyotsyami, fight against those people. So there's this subtle distinction between fighting for one's own benefit and fighting against somebody, with the emphasis being on the object of whom you are fighting. So this prati here, this very subtle prefix. Here, it's the meaning is rather clearer. It means fight against. It can also mean a counter attack. It can mean so. Prati sometimes has the direct meaning of counters, and prati karoti to counteract something. Here to counter attack. Prati yud. But here it doesn't have the meaning of counter-attack. It simply means fight against them. A bit like in English. Do you add anything really to the verb? You add a little bit, I suppose, to fight somebody and to fight against somebody. Doesn't really change the meaning. Just as the yud adding a prati yud here could either mean specifically counter-attack or just fight against. So the next one, pujarhau. Puja. So arha means worthy. In fact, so we have the um, arhan in Sanskrit, arahang, it put an extra a in the arahang in Pali, which you get the arahants or arahats, just means the worthy ones. And it has been speculated that in fact, our word worth and worthy are directly cognate with ar. It also a g in some stages of the language. Argha actually means a price or something is worth. Anyway, worthy is, and it's the same root as the arahant, just means worthy people. And here, puja, same in Sanskrit and Pali, puja, veneration, reverence. So puja plus arha means worthy of veneration, therefore venerable, worthy of reverence. And of course, the puja arha becomes pujarha by sandhi. Now here, it becomes the pujarhau, which is the dual form, the masculine dual, nominative and accusative. Remember, in the dual form, nominatives and accusatives are always the same. And it's put in the dual because this adjective, worthy of reverence, is applying to two people, both Bhishma and Drona. So, katam pratiyutsyami, how will I fight against? And aham, you see, aham is put in as the third word. Grammatically, not necessary, of course, because the pratiyutsyami, the ami ending, necessarily has the meaning of I, first singular, but sometimes the word is just put in. And in the present case, just to either for a little emphasis, occasionally it's just done to make up the necessary number of beats in the meter. So katam aham pratiyutsyami, how will I fight? In the sense of how can I possibly fight? Sankhye, in battle. Ishubhi, with arrows. Dronan, Drona, Bhishma and Drona. Pratiyutsyame, of course, takes a direct object, so Bhishman Dronancha, Katam Pratiyutsyame, Pujarhav. So in the duel, these two people, both being worthy of reverence, in other words, far from me fighting them, they deserve, they are worthy of reverence from me. And at the end of each line, Madhusudana and Arisudana. These are both in the vocative. These are these are two of the numerous epithets of Krishna. And Ari means an enemy. In fact, in classical Greek, an eris is an enemy. So katam bhishmam aham sankhye dronancha madhusudana ishubhi pratiyutsyami pujarha varisudana. So grammatically, this is all fairly simple in this verse. So I'll read through it again before we wind up. Here we are. Arjuna uvacha. Expand it a bit. Katham bhishmam aham sankhye dronancha madhusudana ishubhi pratiyutsyami purjaha varisudana. And just will note one point here. We have the dual form ending in the au. This is the normal masculine dual form for words ending in short a. And by sandhi, if one word ends in an au and the next word begins in a vowel, any vowel, the au becomes av, as you've seen here. Pujar ha very sudana. There it is in the Roman script. Pujar hau very sudana. Purja ha very sudana. And I'll show it to you in the Devanagari. Without the sandhi, puja arhau. Oops. Puja arhau. And here, pujarhav. Look at here. Av. Pujarhavari sudana. I'll read it through once more. Katham bhishmam aham sankhye dronancha madhusudana ishubhi pratiyutsyami pujarha varisudana. And that's it on this video.